MrBeast is the most famous blogger in the world, and probably the richest. Like any well-known person, he has both fans and haters who find cringy reasons to criticize him. For example, they criticize him because his team uses e-cigarettes.
He actually completely forgot to edit out footage of Chandler vaping. All of this was caught on camera. This was definitely not something he was meant to do, and it really could have turned out super bad for him.
Well, one more thing. How to go Super Saiyan?
Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan.
Or because MrBeast is easier on girls and makes it tougher for boys in his videos. His videos feature fake money. What's up with that? Yeah, it's cringy. Today, I want to analyze MrBeast from an angle no one else has. I've dug through a ton of material, including solid reasons why he gets hate. So today I'm going to show you that there are two sides to every coin. Today you'll learn about the dark side of MrBeast. MrBeast, also known as Jimmy Donaldson, was born on May 7th, 1998. He started with sports, but after an injury, he had to quit sports and turned to YouTube.
For me, I hate school. I hate it. I just want to make YouTube videos. That's all I ever want to do. That's all I ever wanted to do. But I didn't have the best grades in school. Didn't really have a job. I wasn't making enough after I graduated high school. So my mom was just like, either you go to college or you move out. Like, you're not going to live here and not go to college. Whatever. She wants what's best for me. It's not her being mean. It's like, obviously she didn't think this magical YouTube thing would work out.
First, he made Let's Play videos, then moved on to various review videos with a friend who has since changed gender.
Hey, Anthony.
But then, it smoothly transitioned into challenges. MrBeast first got hype by doing something 10,000 or 100,000 times, watching junk for many hours, and then saying, "What am I doing with my life?" Views flowed like a river. And then, when the first big ad came, Jimmy had a brilliant idea. He thought of reinvesting the ad money back into the same video. He was paid $10,000, gave it to a homeless person, and it got massive views. Later, he combined the two most powerful formats on his channel, challenges and charity. It was just a brilliant scheme. Advertisers flock to the huge views on Jimmy's videos and also get a good reputation because Jimmy has a flawless reputation, and they act as sponsors in his videos. A wild hype machine began, endlessly generating views and expanding MrBeast's huge fan base.
100 people inside of a giant circle, and whoever leaves the circle last wins $500,000. But if you touch the red line...
The format was really brilliant, but Jimmy, not being very savvy about finances, began facing financial problems.
How does this investment of $10 million plus, how does it become profitable?
I don't know. I just want to make the best videos possible. I'm not a businessman. I'm a creator.
Because he didn't know how to manage money, he spent too much on videos, and eventually found a brilliant manager from soccer who solved all his financial problems. Since then, they've had a huge amount of very costly contracts. You might have noticed that the same car appears in almost all his videos. That's not just because it's bright, beautiful, and attracts attention. It's a sponsorship deal. Jimmy also started his own product line, which began making them big bucks. He brilliantly promoted it through his videos, and of course, advertisers started paying more and more money.
I grabbed 100 people from age 1 all the way up to age 100 to try Feastable. Do you mind telling me what you think of this chocolate?
I've had a lot of chocolate, and this is the best I ever had.
The manager took care of all MrBeast's financial needs, and he started scaling up his content and taking on much bigger challenges.
$50 million private island. Literally anything you could ever want is on this private island. And I'm gonna show you the difference between this and a $150 million luxury island.
The same Squid Game, which, just so you know, he invested more in than the creators of the series did in their own series. Because while they mainly used graphics, his sets were all real. Besides, a very important point is that MrBeast has always moved forward not alone. He started with his friend Chris Tyson, and sometimes some participants in the videos particularly stood out and were liked by the public. They wrote about it in the comments, and eventually, those guys were also taken into MrBeast's team. And MrBeast's team, like any other blogger's team, is associated with him. Chris Tyson is probably the only person on his team who is actually hated. Firstly, because he used to say very bad things.
2016, and he says, "I love how in America we can literally tell people to kill themselves, but if we say the N-word in a non-derogatory way, it can end careers." This one's from 2016, and it's in reply to a black person who says, "Look at the white people above talking about it's cooked to perfection." Chris quote tweets him and says, "Look at the black people who have never had a steak that's more than $10. Here's a meme he posted where he shows a dryer button that says whites and colors, a picture of someone from the KKK, and then zooming in on that button and saying he's triggered.
But that's okay. Most of all, he began to be hated when he decided to change his gender. Well, he changed, okay. Personally, my main problem is that he had a son and a wife whom he left because of his strange whim, and that's just irresponsibility, in my opinion. Now, because of his friend, MrBeast finds himself in a situation where it seems like nobody really likes him, and most likely, MrBeast himself is cringing at him. He can't kick him out because, well, everyone is very tolerant. If you kick a transgender person out of your team, you're going to be in big trouble, to put it mildly. The next famous team member is Carl Jacobs. Honestly, I didn't know he was being hated until I dug into it. But the first thing he's criticized for is sometimes painting his nails. But honestly, I think that's a strange reason. And another thing, Carl, even when he was a schoolboy, followed a Twitch streamer who also expressed extremely racist views. He found him on some stream, hung out with him, and took a picture. The interesting thing is that since then, both Carl and that guy have completely changed. And he has apologized a million times for everything. In this case, the image of a nice, good guy who stands for all good things, very family-oriented, works against him. Because when the audience sees such materials, they start to turn against their idol. And he has to apologize to them, practically on his knees, begging forgiveness for practically nothing. Chandler. His viewers from MrBeast know him too. He is still on the team. And here, of course, is a funny situation, why they don't like him. He created his own NFT. And at that time, NFT was known mainly for being a scam, even though he did everything honestly. People didn't care about that, and he was hated for it. They said that he would eventually scam all his subscribers for money, all that crap. But in the end, he scammed no one. The project turned out to be honest, but the residue still remains. And Nolan Hansen, just the same, one of the most famous team members of MrBeast. Here, the situation is even more laughable. He is hated simply because he exists. He is hated just because he films with MrBeast.
Because they also said he was boring, annoying, obnoxious, and plenty of people just hated him.
That is, if you touch MrBeast in any way, you start to be associated with him. People start to hate you because you are apparently famous and rich. This is, of course, bull. And here we smoothly transition to what MrBeast is hated for. Let's start with some absurd things. First, a very interesting fact that MrBeast is involved in charity. He even has a separate channel where he really, truly engages in charity. And you know, there was even a situation when he made wells in Africa. An African activist hated him for portraying Africa as poor, as if someone doesn't know that Africa is poor. Maybe it's worth fixing this situation, instead of hating on those who are trying to help you. But okay, logic doesn't work here, and this is not the first case. When he helped people with eye problems, the same thing happened.
And he gets blasted on Twitter for it by a large group of people. I'll just go ahead and bring up probably the biggest tweet that people were talking about. It's this one that talks about it being demonic and not being able to explain why, which is always such a beautiful argument. This thing sucks, but don't ask me why because I can't explain it. It just does.
Some American journalists criticize MrBeast because he doesn't manage his money in charity efficiently enough. Just think about it, dude. Having a lot of money instead of buying expensive houses, expensive yachts, cars, and showing all that off. He spends this money on content and charity, and maybe somewhere it's not efficient, but he's trying. He shows that helping other people is good, inspiring a huge number of people around the world. You try to help other people, and you are judged for not helping them efficiently enough.
So you'd rather me keep my money? You'd rather me go buy a mansion and a Lamborghini like everyone else, as opposed to investing it in content, creating jobs for people, and trying to do everything I can to make videos my viewers want to see and can't find anywhere else. You'd rather me just go buy a mansion.
And now, we move to the really dark side of MrBeast, which raises a lot of questions, especially morally. I remember a long time ago seeing a video on MrBeast's channel. Guy won $1 million from him in a contest. The essence of this contest was that guys had to keep their hand on a huge pile of money, and the last one to take their hand off won. This guy won the money honestly in the video from MrBeast, provided him with big views, but Jimmy decided not to stop there. After this video, when the guy had already won, he made a video where this person spends $1 million in 24 hours. What bothers me here is MrBeast had videos where he gave people challenges to quickly spend a certain amount of money in a store, after which he simply gave them the items and they parted ways. But this situation went much further. Besides being forced to spend $1 million in 24 hours by MrBeast's command, it also showed how poorly this guy lives.
So this is where you currently live?
Yeah. This is my room, this is where me, my wife sleep, and see, it ain't no room at all. Like,
you can't even open the door all the way.
Right.
This is my little cousin's room.
Your little cousin sleeps on an air mattress?
Yeah, and he popped it, so it's flat.
Your cousin is sleeping on an air mattress that's like has a hole in it, so he's sleeping on the floor.
I don't know how this guy felt about it later when he watched the video, but just imagine being in his shoes. On one hand, it's not very comfortable to expose yourself to a huge audience as being poor and having to say thank you to MrBeast 1,000,000 times for winning that $1,000,000. How can you refuse content to the guy who gave you $1,000,000? For this character, it's a no-win situation. For MrBeast, it's content. It's an emotional roller coaster, showing how the guy was living poorly and he pulled him out of that mess by literally making content on this guy's poverty and forcing him to spend the $1,000,000 he honestly won, which he could have spent on anything for this video. It gives MrBeast a good reputation among his audience, showing him as this kind, good influencer. In reality, he's just a guy. But personally, when I saw this and felt strange about it, they could have stopped at the point where he just spends $1,000,000 in a day, but why show that he's poor? I don't understand. The next point, MrBeast's earnings are clean, but not entirely. I don't know how often this happens, but Jimmy talks to Logan Paul. Logan Paul is already known as a crypto scammer. He launched his project, which eventually turned out to be a scam.
Zoo.co. I am so excited about this project. It's so fun. It's a really fun game that makes you money.
A fun game that earns you money. How much did you guys make from CryptoZoo?
I lost around $50,000 in CryptoZoo.
I lost $40,000.
And I lost around $15,000 US.
And cheated a huge number of people out of money, which he never returned. And MrBeast, on a podcast with Logan Paul, talked about how they conducted a certain financial maneuver.
Just out of nowhere, just calls me and he's like, yo, I got like 30 people to call, hop in. I'm like, I don't care. He's like, it'll be the best decision of your life. Just get in. I was like, okay. Yeah. So there's like all these like very successful people in this call. And Gary's just like, everyone shut the fuck up. Here's what you're gonna do, and you're gonna do it right now. You're all gonna buy a bunch of CryptoPunks.
So Jimmy, or MrBeast, just beautifully painted the picture for us. Gary Vee called up 30 heavy hitters, as Logan likes to say. Big wallets, absolute whales. They got a ton of money, a lot of...
But all of us were like, okay,
Everyone's
Gary.
Judging. I'm texting Logan, and I'm like, Gary lost his mind.
Bro, all of us were like, yo, Gary's nuts. Yo, Gary was right again.
Are you guys hearing the words like coming out of this man's mouth? They're laughing about market manipulation. This is a crime if this was stocks, right? Securities. This is not allowed for multiple reasons.
They literally agreed to invest in one project. They also made tweets about it so that the maximum number of people would invest in this project. Then, when the prices in this project skyrocketed thanks to their manipulation, they simply transferred the money from this project to another project without saying anything to the audience. So they literally just conducted a manipulation and profited from their audience. Again, I don't know how often Jimmy pulls off such schemes, but why would a person who does everything for people associate with such a person? Is MrBeast ultimately a bad person? For me, MrBeast is just an ordinary, naive guy from an ordinary family who always dreamed of becoming a popular YouTuber. He even has a video that he put on hold in 2015, in which he, as a schoolboy, was preparing for some exams and dreamed that in 5 years, he would have at least 1 million subscribers. 5 years later, he had 40 million subscribers. He's just an ordinary guy who definitely does almost everything he does not out of greed. Show me at least one other person in this world who spends all their earnings practically on content and charity, that is, on other people, practically not investing anything in themselves. In some ways, I even feel sorry for MrBeast, in the sense that because he needs to please everyone, because there is a certain agenda, he is forced to stick to one particular image. People don't want to see MrBeast as bad, and if he makes a mistake somewhere, they will immediately try to cancel him. And he is just an ordinary person too. To have such a huge influence, such immense media presence, such responsibility at such a young age is a huge feat. So, despite the fact that MrBeast, like everyone else, has both bad and good sides, remember that he is just as human as you, and treat him accordingly.